Hey guys, thanks for coming along today. I know it's Sunday, so you're probably a bit hungover and fatigued, but got some of my friends up here today, and we can hopefully get into some interesting topics. I wanted to stay away from us just spruiking our services and talk about some of the cool stuff that's happening in the space right now. We've got a lot of advancements in technology, AI, etc. And we've got Bitcoin also making a bit of a comeback and stealing the narrative. So just wanted to speak to some of these experts and see what do the next 5, 10 years look like. What are some of the apps going to look like? What kind of rails they're using? How do we see this technology disrupting our various industries? So I've got people here from TradFi, GameFi, traditional venture, and I guess Igor, Infinex, a bit of a hybrid. So we got a good perspective from everyone here. Maybe first for kicking off, I'll just let everybody introduce what they do and who they are. So maybe Bridge, kick off with you.
Hey, good afternoon, everyone. Great to see everyone here. My name's Bridget Nichols. I'm the COO at Monochrome Exchange-Traded Funds. So we have a Bitcoin and Ethereum listed product in Australia. We have some other products around that, but that's my predominant game, and it's really exciting. We launched the products in June of this year for the Bitcoin product and October of this year for the Ethereum product. Fantastic to see everyone out here.
Hey guys, I'm Igor from Infinex. We help onboard traditional users onto Web3 rails. So we do that to obfuscate away from gas and bridging and all of this complex architecture that we've built that actually works, but helping people execute on any of the things they want to do in DeFi, whether it's just trading, whether it's custody, or housing their Bitcoin or Litecoin or Ripple or whatever you guys want to do. We're here for that. So that's Infinex.
Hi, I'm Lee Travers, Director of Capital Markets at Animoca Brands. So we're probably best known for some of our investments in Web3 gaming like Axie Infinity, as well as the metaverse like Sand and Decentralized. And we're also one of the most active investors in Web3 with a portfolio of around 550 different projects. So spread across gaming, infrastructure, we're looking at AI deep in. It's a much bigger mandate now than purely gaming.
Hey guys, how you going? My name's Fred Shibesta. I'm one of the founders of finder.com.au. I'm a creator, a farmer, big farmer. And I'm all about comparing exchanges on Finder, basically. If you want to get the best rates and deals, there's probably a few things to check out there.
Cool. Maybe Fred, we'll kick off with you, mate. Your business at Finder that you've built obviously touches a lot of the traditional industries, and also you've seen crypto stuff come through. How do you see that fusion playing out over the next couple of years and the integration of some of these apps or protocols into what you do for your day-to-day running your business?
Yeah, I think 2021 was like the DeFi mullet, where like the front was like TradFi and then the back end was like DeFi. And then that just got like nuked by like all the regulators, so they were not like super happy about that. I think we're like in this moment in time, I have this non-consensus view that crypto will be mainstream. It actually will get there in the next 5 to 10 years. And everyone's like, oh, it doesn't get used for stuff, that reminds me of like things that were never used in the past, right? Like you look at like, and this is that moment in time when you've got the government talking about it. That's insane. You've got like real applications starting to come through where like a lot of things, like I've sat here and spoken about this before, and I've been here for like, since 2016 talking about this stuff. And I think now is actually looking a lot more like you're going to see, I think Infinex is a great example. You've got like front-end DeFi where like mainstream can actually onboard too. Like that's insane. That's what's needed. And I think that's where we're going. We're going to see like everyday users of crypto, and it's just going to become easier and easier and easier. And I think it's going to get a lot quicker to go and do that.
Yeah, right. And maybe for you, Igor, like, what extra technology challenges you think need to be overcome? Maybe it's the front end, back end to, bring these people into the ecosystem. Obviously, that's what you're trying to solve for. And what are some of those things that need to be done, and what technologies do you think can help enable that?
So we've spent a really long period of time building incredible architecture, like incredible infrastructure that genuinely works, that's completely decentralized, completely permissionless, and it's fantastic. It just takes a lot to access it. it's really, really difficult for the traditional person to figure out what a public key, private key architecture is, how much gas you need to pay, what layer 2 they're on, what bridge they need to use. All they want to do is trade meme coins, or they might just want to borrow against their assets. And in order to do that, you have this incredibly steep on-ramping period, which is just not suitable for most people. So what we're building, and where we think that the market is going, is basically taking this incredible infrastructure that you've built and creating a layer in front of it that people understand, like a username and password to log in, or your Face ID on a mobile app, or your fingerprint to log in. That people get. People understand. They're like, okay, I've used this for 10 years. I know exactly how Google Authenticator works. I know exactly how to log into my email. That should be what you do when you log into a Web3 application. All of the hard work we've already done. We just need to find a way to position it in front of users so that they don't get scared off.
Interesting. And talking about memes and that, lead us sort of leaning on what your expertise is. We saw NFTs.
My memes.
Yeah, your memes.
My knowledge of memes.
Locked in,
meme.
baby. Who's
Meme
locked
lord
in?
over here?
Lock in, baby. Lock in.
We've just launched a meme, actually, the Lee coin. It's just gone live. No. We've seen, like, NFTs. We've seen play to earn. We've seen all these other things that are trying to, get newer users, new adoption. From where you sit at Animoca, what are the things that need to happen, or what are happening right now that are going to get people excited and come into the ecosystem?
Yeah, excellent question. So I still think Web3 gaming is going to be one of the biggest catalysts for adoption. You've got billions of people out there that are playing video games that don't have any digital property rights over the assets that they're accumulating in games. And I think that will change. With, I guess, the changes in Web3 gaming, it's probably one of the best areas for innovation. Sure, you've seen a lot of changes in DeFi, but with gaming, you don't have the same sort of risks, around financial services, around high-value assets. So I really think that's going to be one of the most innovative areas. We've seen, I guess, the rise of play-to-earn and those economies. And then we saw, probably earlier this year, that hyper-casual gaming. We saw a lot of new users coming into the marketplace, particularly with like mini apps across TON, where you've got 900 million users that are able to enter Web3 through an application that they've always used. I think we've got more of that coming, particularly out of Korea and Japan with the Kaya ecosystem and the Line and KakaoTalk messenger apps that are going to be bringing in users across games there. So we've seen that rise of casual gaming. Some of the, I guess, AAA games that more Web3-centric founders have tried to create probably haven't yet hit the mark for gameplay. But that's, I think, coming down the pipe pretty strongly. We've seen a lot of actual Web2 interest, genuine interest from gamers in, some of the newer projects like Gunzilla and Off the Grid. And I think, in terms of just the mechanics in crypto, I'm interested, but also the evolution just in things like technologies like hardware, where you're going to have wearables coming in, and then how that can play within games, how AR and VR are going to impact like wearables, and then with tokens coming into that. So I think there's going to be a huge amount of changes within Web3 gaming generally.
And just to follow on for that, and anyone can jump in, but do you see that coming from the legacy players, or do you think new companies on the hardware and the software side are going to be coming in to, push the envelope?
Absolutely,
like
we're seeing it. We're seeing it within Animoca on a daily basis. I mean, some of the big messenger apps I just talked about and their entry into Web3. Look at Sony launching Sonium blockchain, right? They want to be able to use their hardware and empower creators to build their IP on chain, and they want to help facilitate and accelerate that with Web3. So I think we've probably done within like the ecosystem of builders as much as we can do. I think we're pushing the growth of technology really well, but the acceleration is going to come from some of these big partnerships with genuine Web2 brands that have been around forever.
I just want to add, if I can just, I have a slightly different view, if that's okay.
No, we love it.
Has anyone gone to DApp Radar and checked out Immutable? Anyone? Like if you do it, just check out how many transactions are actually going on. This is like pure Web3 gaming, I'm not sure about. I think social, I get. But pure Web3 gaming is dead. Nuked. Don't buy the narrative. Watch out for that. Be really careful because like, go and look at the numbers of DApp Radar and Immutable. It ain't, like, it's a $2.8 billion coin. It ain't doing shit. Like, just, that the narrative needs to die. Someone needs to kill that shit. I think the thing I was going to, like, I do think the social apps are phenomenal. I think Ton, exactly what you're saying. And I think in gaming, if I was to get very specific, if I can build on your narrative, is iGaming. So casino gaming is exploding. That's product market fit right now. And I think on Ton especially, the casinos in Telegram are going insane. I think another part, which I just want to talk about, undervalue. If we want to get ETH to come back, like ETH is just struggling against Bitcoin right now. We got to get back to the apps, not infrastructure. Fuck the infrastructure and get on the apps. The apps need to grow because the apps drive transactions. We need to use the apps, like the dApps, and like Infinex is a great example of that. We need to get transactions back on chain. Get off the fucking exchanges, back into DeFi and use the chains. The chains are what drive this decentralization, this whole entire movement, trustlessness. That's what we need to do as a community. Let's go and back the DeFi apps. 2021 coins of DeFi are undervalued because we just haven't transitioned again to being bullish about where the applications are being done. The users are on DeFi. That's where they're going to be. That's where actual transactions, you withdraw your coins from an exchange. You can buy them with fiat, sure, but go and do crypto, that's DeFi. That's what we need to go back and do. That's what will build ETH. That's what will build these ecosystems. And I'm very, very passionate about that because I think there are a lot of 2021 coins out there that have gone through the bear. Look at Pendle. It's gone through the bear market, and there's other ones out there. That's where your opportunities lie, in my view.
Well, Fred, Lee, I'll let you jump in.
Yeah,
First of all, shout out to our friends at Immutable. Shout out to all the exchanges, also our friends.
I like these
Shout out
changes.
to Fred, though. I love a good opinion. And
Get on
Lee,
chain.
come back.
Get on chain.
Well, I
The
want to see
exchanges
Fred.
will never die
Yeah.
in TradFi.
I want
Ever.
to see Fred, put his money where his mouth is. You've talked about Finder, comparing all the centralized exchanges. Where's Finder's best dApps? That's what I want to see next time I go into Finder. Tell me which
100%.
apps to use.
100%. I take that. And I'm actually launching a new site. Thank you, Lee. It's called CryptoFinder.com. So it's going to be a very niche service, purely on-chain. It's coming. I don't want to... Thank you for your...
Can I have 10%?
I thought we weren't allowed to plug here.
I don't want to plug stuff. I don't want to talk about, like, I genuinely feel extraordinarily strong about what crypto is about and getting on chain. I just think that's where your opportunities are. If you're buying a coin on a centralized exchange, you're probably exit liquidity. You want to buy it on a DEX. Get it on chain. That's where the alpha lives. Sorry to all the exchanges out there that I help out.
Changing tax quickly, just let Bridge get involved. You obviously sit in an interesting space between traditional and this new, frontier we're going on the crypto side. Where do you think things are going to be in the next couple of years, and where do you see the proliferation of crypto either getting assimilated into traditional or more traditional getting assimilated into crypto? Like, where do you see it going?
Yeah, that's really interesting. I actually see two different pincer movements going on. One is TradFi trying to be DeFi, and one is DeFi trying to be TradFi. So in my, opinion, the TradFi people trying to be DeFi are currently winning because they have your regulation in place, right? So if we take an example, that the Monochrome Bitcoin ETF is utilising a 20-year-old regulatory framework to basically give investors passive exposure to Bitcoin. So they're leveraging the rails that already exist. They're leveraging the ASIC approval. It's still as good as any other Bitcoin product, but it is regulated. As far as the other way around, DeFi moving into TradFi, I think some people here are probably more qualified to talk about. But I guess as far as the future of finance, there's a few key themes that are emerging. And the new financial world is going to look almost completely different in 5 to 10 years, in my opinion. The banking infrastructure that we see today will fall down like the Roman Empire, and a new infrastructure with new products will emerge. And we're starting to see that, and I agree with Fred's comments that the pace of that is going to accelerate post-Trump coming into office. So it's really interesting. He's employing entrepreneurs in his cabinet, or whatever they call the American inner circle. And I love that, because the solutions aren't going to come from traditional TradFi people. If they could solve the problems that have existed for decades, they would have already solved them. So the solutions will come from the entrepreneurship world. And I like to, I guess, draw a little analogy between the schoolyard on TradFi and DeFi. So at the moment, I see the sort of digital assets aligned folk being the naughty kids, smoking the durries behind the toilets. No one can quite work out what they're doing, but they sort of want to be them because it looks exciting. They get invited to parties, but they're not taken all that seriously. Whereas in 2030, I see the digital assets people will be elevated to the prefect class. They'll be leading the way. They'll be inspiring the world with their ideas and their leadership. And the people that can't get on board will be carrying their school bags and making their lunches. So, yeah, that's it in a nutshell.
And you mentioned it down there, Fred, about apps. Like, Igor, you're obviously doing the access problems, trying to solve that. Do you see apps like Telegram and things like that being the access point for some of these things, or is there going to be something new that we haven't even figured out yet that is going to be the access point?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, most people won't realize that they're on blockchain rails. In the next 5 years, you'll have applications that spin up that are better, cheaper, faster to use, and nobody will realize that actually this is on-chain infrastructure, but the front end looks exactly the same. Like, the new Western Union will look exactly the same and will feel exactly the same, only it'll be orders of magnitude cheaper, it'll be much faster, it'll be much more distributable because it's already a global business, but they won't realize that actually on the back end it might be a stablecoin transaction. And they won't need to. People just don't need to know. Like, most of the people in this room, and sorry, if you know how the SWIFT network works, please put your hand up. Okay, there's like 4 people, right? You've all sent a international transaction, but no one actually understands how it moves. You won't need to. You won't need to understand how Ethereum works. You won't need to know what EIP 1559 makes a difference for your app or your application or your protocol. None of that will matter. It's people like us that are building infrastructure that actually, an application which you can log into and you can use, and whether it's a meme coin or whether it's DeFi or whether it's just buying Bitcoin, the front end will look very nice and very familiar to you, and on the back end is where all of the infrastructure work has been already done.
Leah, Fred, anything there you're seeing in that space that's exciting you in terms of apps or applications for the on-ramp or novel ways that people are expressing this asset class to the public?
Well, I think, as part of this, what crypto looks like in 2030, to try and forecast that, I had to look back 5 years ago and what the market looked like back then. So it was 300 billion in terms of total market cap, and now we're at 3.5 trillion, so there's a 10x there. But the stable coin market was only a couple of billion, and now it's 200 billion, so a 100x increase. So I think, in terms of that adoption, we have seen just such rapid adoption of like on-chain transactions with stable coins being used all over the world. So like the on-ramp and off-ramp, maybe we won't even need that in the next 5 years. It'll just be all on-chain. We won't have to worry about, converting off and back again. And I think that'll be pretty exciting.
You get paid in stables. You get paid in stables. You never have to realize, like, how do I get my Australian dollars into USDC? That in 5 years' time, you won't ever need to think about that. It'll just be something that either you opt into or you don't opt into. You want to have your money on chain, you'll be able to do that momentarily.
And you've got, I guess, paydays happen every fortnight. Maybe they happen every month. And
or every 8 hours, like a perp contract.
Yeah, well, it could be streaming. It's literally second by second with stablecoins. Yeah. So you can have that level of divisibility, which in Australia, who cares? But if you're in Turkey with a 80% inflation rate, or Sri Lanka's probably around the same sort of levels, that month for payday, that's a huge loss if you're waiting that period of time to be able to get paid. So being able to not only get paid, but convert that into US dollars or convert that into Bitcoin, the reserve world currency.
Yep.
The savings there are going to be absolutely massive and really important.
I saw a really innovative product just proposed recently where in America they will give you a mortgage on a house. They will lend you just a little bit extra money, and they require you to buy Bitcoin with that. And their thesis is that if they have to sell the house, that is actually potentially has a lot of risks, like physical risk or market risk, all sorts of different risks. And so they attach the Bitcoin to it, obviously in its sort of deflationary manner, and hoping for it to go up. And they see that actually as potentially lower risk to go and liquidate, because they can so easily have a market for it. You don't have to go to some small suburb in the middle of,
Ohio.
Yeah, Ohio, deep in like some farm town where you're getting a loan and your liquidity is so low, which is some shitcoin sitting out of the middle of Dex Screener. It's literally the same thing, right? Or it's an NFT that's just buck way out there, right? Sure, it has some value locally, but think about that in terms of like the market is starting to adjust and realize that if you can take an asset and go from like Zimbabwe to Russia to France and have the same amount of liquidity, that's lower risk. Seen as lower risk, that's like a new paradigm and dimension of thinking. And I think you're going to start to see new financial products starting to be created where you'll integrate in Bitcoin in ways that potentially we've not even thought of or even considered before. And I think some of these new law changes is really what's holding that back, particularly with banks holding crypto. I think when that changes, you're talking about a Cambrian explosion of liquidity, access, and new financial product and innovation. Like bankers are smart. They're actually really smart. They've been crushing it for like thousands of years since the Medicis. The Romans, man, been crushing it. Bankers always crush it. They're very, very, very smart people. They just have to play within the laws. And then when the laws change, finance people go and make money. We're all finance people here now. It's democratized. That's what makes it awesome. And I think that's the opportunity, and I think it's going to really change, and I'm excited about it.
So we said the tech stack outside of Bitcoin. Obviously, Bitcoin's the North Star for many of us. There are quite a few maxis up here, and it is by dominance and market cap. Do you see, we've had Lightning Network, kind of didn't really come through. There's ordinals, there's people building like the Bitcoin financial layer. Do you see Bitcoin actually integrating some of these apps and services in the future, or do you think it stays as the pristine collateral that is in the back end and just used to transfer safely and securely? Or do we actually see people doing more innovation on Bitcoin and integrate it into some of the apps or services we're discussing?
I think that's a very interesting question. My personal view is it won't be Bitcoin. You've got to have a look at, I guess, the key objectives that you need to achieve with any sort of globally interoperable financial system. And they are really atomic settlement. So show of hands, who knows what atomic settlement is? All right, so basically it's just the settlement of a financial asset that happens in an instant. So at the moment, shares take 2 days to settle, but what we want to move to is all assets settling immediately. So what do you need for that? You need globally scalable technical infrastructure. You need interoperable trust. So that's what comes down to the layer, and I'll let technical people talk about that. And you need very quick payment rails. So some of those, objectives have already been solved in some respect, and some are still to be solved. So I don't know what it's going to be. I don't think it's going to be Bitcoin. It could be Ethereum, although Ethereum's slow. But I'll let the technical people talk to that.
Maybe I can provide some color. So at some point in time, people will want to use their Bitcoin, whether they borrow against it or whether they use it in a DeFi application for staking or use it just in some way, shape, or form. Right now, that's a huge honeypot. It's nearly a $2 trillion honeypot as it stands, 1.9 now. You want to be able to tap into that. And right now, because Bitcoin operates on its own chain and the whole of DeFi is on completely separate, segregated chains, it's hard to bring that into the fold. What we're doing at Infinex is bringing on near accounts, which allow chain signatures for any application and any asset, which means that you can have a private key embedded in a smart contract. And for anyone non-technical, all that means is that you can, from one account, deploy any asset to be used in DeFi. Things like that already exist. We just need to build a front end so other people, so the public, can actually start making it useful. building on top of Bitcoin, I think is, you're probably right. It's not the method that, like, people have tried and they'll carry on trying because the incentive is there, because Bitcoin just carries so much weight, and it's the front page newspaper of anytime crypto goes up, it's always about Bitcoin. So just that means that there's going to be a financial incentive in order to build on top of it. I don't think it's going to work particularly well, but using something like Cardano or Ripple or Bitcoin or Litecoin as part of your DeFi infrastructure, irrelevant of where that DeFi infrastructure lives, that's going to be massive. That's what you'll see over the next. You'll see that this cycle, and you'll see it perpetually over the next 2 to 3 years.
And obviously Animoca makes a lot of investments in the space, like, within what you can share, like, where's your view on Bitcoin and its place in some of these new applications and businesses that are being built?
Yeah.
Do you guys have any Bitcoin?
Yeah, we actually do in our venture fund. Yeah. So I think it's our largest position. So,
Amazing.
So I was pleased to see that the other day on the quarterly report. But I think for us, we ultimately want Bitcoin to be here forever, and for that we're going to need to have on-chain fees, and we're not seeing Bitcoin used frequently for payments. So I'm all for the builders out there that are using Bitcoin to inscribe ordinals, or I heard a pitch at the Whale Lab yesterday about a group that's actually hashing passwords for SMEs onto the Bitcoin blockchain. To basically build that level of immutability and basically access as well. So the more on-chain transactions that we're seeing, the more fees that are for the Bitcoin miners, the more secure the network is, and the bigger network effect that Bitcoin's going to have. So I think for the overall health of the entire crypto ecosystem, it's actually really important that people, one, not just buying and holding Bitcoin, but two, building and utilizing the chain itself.
Fred, I'm just going to ask you to stand up and turn around. So, yeah, obviously a fan and has been for a long time. Where do you see it
There's only one
place in this?
There's only one message. It's not financial advice. I've been to the federal court to prove it as well.
Say that again. I didn't hear that.
There's only one message on the back, and it's not financial advice because I've been to the federal court to prove it.
So do you see it? You still see it having relevance going forward in some of these applications we've been discussing in infrastructure, or do you think it just sits by itself to the side?
I think that the permissionlessness of Bitcoin means that if you can create something, I think go for it. I don't think we should. I don't think that's what narratives have been continuously. Bitcoin's narrative has been changing and its use cases over time. I think something like OP-Cat is a big deal. Shout out to any of the Quantum Cat holders. I think that actual OP-Cat change, which will allow more coding onto Bitcoin, I think it actually will have quite a significant impact. But the main narrative route now of Bitcoin is store of value. You go back in time, that narrative has changed. I remember like all sorts of different narratives about ETH, all sorts of different narratives about Bitcoin. I think with any technology, that's the beauty of it. Let it go. Let it breathe. If it wants to be built upon, people will build upon it. If there's functionality, go and build upon it. If you want to go and use it to secure your mortgage, go and do it. You want to build loans with it, go and do it. More use cases are great, and that's what makes it so beautiful. I think onboarding through an exchange, get your fiat currency.
We like the exchanges, remember?
I love exchanges.
Listed ones, not DCE.
Just to remove doubt, I love exchanges because you need to be able to get out of the fiat currency system somehow. You got to get out. You got to get on chain, and to do that, you need an exchange. And I think there's a journey in that, right? There's a progression, and I think once you start to do that, then you start to see these use cases. And as you start to do that, what naturally happens? People start to build. You start to create. You start to look at the code. You start to go and I think the one thing I just want to add, if I can, Australia right now, to deal with the cost of living, we need to progress forward. We need to build. We need to get out of this finger-pointing, staring...
Digging stuff out of the ground.
Just digging stuff out of the ground and sending it overseas. We need to build new things. And everyone here has got AI. If you plug ChatGPT in and go and code stuff, we can go and do things. And this is the conference to go and do that. You're taking that great step. I wrote an article about this. I'm pretty strongly. It got taken off LinkedIn into the paper the other day. But I truly, truly believe.
Who did you insult?
I insulted Australians to some extent. There's a couple of people, liberal tears. I get it. You know. But like at the end of the day, we went through easy times in the early 2000s. Now we're in tough times. And you know what you do in tough times? You build. Get up out of your chair, get into AI, get into this tech, and build. Do something about it. Stop complaining about it. Stop looking, and stop turning to the government. The government is just going to create more regulation and pull us in. It's like this dependency clutch around us. Turn to ourselves and let's go and build out of it. I'm done with the government. Who else is done with the government? It ain't going to fucking help you. It never has.
Mate, you made it. Actually, I think we should give Fred a clap for that one.
Yeah. Anti-establishment tendencies, we love them.
Love the passion. Yeah, quickly, last one, I think, and then we can go to some questions. AI, you mentioned AI. We're seeing it now becoming a bit more ubiquitous in people's day-to-day. See ChatGPT, call centers are now going to AI. On the crypto side, we're seeing GOAT. We're seeing AIs tweeting on Twitter, pumping their own meme coins. Where do you see this intersect of AI and crypto? Where's it going to go? What is the end game for this stuff? And what are some of the opportunities you think everyone should be looking out for?
I see like there's a couple of very near and present ones that haven't been done. When you need to do something quite complex in crypto, it can be quite hard to figure out what to do. ChatGPT is like all-knowing, and it just like figures that out. And there are several things in crypto that are complex, and I think that can bridge more people from mainstream into much more getting on chain and doing much more complex things. That's a beautiful bridge. Like, we can literally do crazy maths, all of us. We can like code all these crazy things. We can like deeply tell you about Roman history and all these sources and stuff because we have this beautiful interface. In crypto, there are all these hard things you have to go do. You got to click these buttons, then you got to press this thing, you got to put the coin in here. Oh, you need gas now? Crazy stuff, right? Whereas with AI, if we can go and smooth that, more people come in, more transactions, like market going to go up.
Igor, are you, sorry Lee, are you thinking about AI and integrating into what you guys are doing at all, or is it's not relevant yet for you guys?
Look, not yet. AI is an interesting one where it's good, not great. It's not terrible, but right now large language models have a cap on what you can get out of them. They lack context. So what users really want is context. What have I been doing? What am I trying to do? Is it operating in a safe manner? That is really difficult for a large language model to be able to spit out. What's really easy is like, tell me about World War II history. Fine. For AI, for investors in the room, we've really just started on this journey for AI. We have no idea where it's going to end up. It's one of those fields that is just it's the sexy narrative that's happening at the moment, and we've had a lot of sexy narratives in crypto, so just be careful of that bridge. Every 6 months, we have a new narrative that comes along and takes market share, takes attention. AI I don't think it's quite happened yet. There's been some wins, but more from the tech side, like how do you democratize graphics processing? How do you democratize processing power? How do you democratize hard drive space? That's all the not exciting things. Bridging the gap between crypto and AI, I think, is going to be incredibly difficult. Just a chatbot with tokens is not going to be the way that you get there.
Lee, you was about to say, I think you might have a different opinion, or are you the same one?
Yeah, well, I think when we think about AI, it's always about, like these robots that have their own minds that we're scared are going to go do their own thing, like maybe steal our seed phrases or, go out and crush the world. Whereas I think, it's more about like the data you're able to train them with. So we had this conversation with a AI agent sort of workforce project owner last week, and the Animoca research team was saying like, I wish we could train these AI models on all our research, about our tokenomics recommendations, about how we see that the market needs to improve, like what sort of areas needed for the next wave of onboarding and adoption. And then all those messages that are inside our research can then get shared out to the market via different messages, different platforms, and it's trained on our data. And I think about that like as an individual, you know, in terms of maybe my crypto portfolio, my risk tolerances, like clearly my own AI agents can be trained on all the things that I say, feel, all that sort of digital footprint I have, and give me the personal recommendations. Like, they know me better than I know me.
Yeah, totally.
And can help develop that for me. So I actually think AI can really be that force for good and actually understand you and the work product that you're doing and help you get it out there a lot better. So I'm excited for it.
That's what I'm saying. That context is so hard. It's so hard to index everything that you do and create a question for what you're trying to index and then make sure that that question is correctly interpreted. Because if the AI is just watching you do things and then starts guessing as to whether you like that thing or you don't like that thing or that was a good trade and not a good trade, it's all about the data that you put into it. So if the data that you put into it is really good and you've got enough processing power that can actually analyze all of that model and spit you out something useful, spot on. That's AI's, that's your dedicated personal assistant. We are far away from that for now.
Bridget, are you seeing demand on the public equity space for exposure to AI? And not to, I know Jeff's here, so don't say anything you get in trouble with. Would you guys, like if there was an AI ETF or something, do you think is that foreseeable in the not too distant future?
Yeah, look, it's interesting. I think people are tacking AI on to the end of their companies and the end of their product names to attract investment. I think in the investment space, if analysing data at mathematics scale was able to predict how investments would behave over the short term, like investment managers would have already made their billions. So I think what you're talking about with the context and the subjective nature of investing, I don't think can be replaced by mass data analysis. So that sort of decades of experience and just ideas that a robot can't think up that a human can about the future. So I think we're pretty safe as far as like robo investment and that side of things. Would we do an AI ETF? No, I don't think so. We'll stick to what we know. Thematic ETFs, in my opinion, are rubbish. They tend to come and go. If you look at the providers that do them, I probably shouldn't name any, but there's some big providers that do thematic ETFs in Australia, and I reckon there's probably 50 thematic ETFs, and I reckon 45 of them are dogs. So personal advice, have a look at the performance before you invest in them.
One quick question before we go to the audience. Is there anything that we've not discussed here from a technological or narrative perspective that you want to highlight, or you think, hey, or you've just started looking into and you want to share and let people go and do their research on? Igor, Lee, Fred, if there's anything there, or Bridget as well.
Look, from a pure play technology standpoint, you have to really you have to think about it in two lenses. One is like, do you want to build on it? The other one is, do you want to invest in it? If you're on the investment side, you have to think about what's the actual secular trend. Raoul Pal talks about this. If technology is just moving further and further up and to the right, do you want to be the person that doesn't engage with the technology and doesn't invest in it? Or do you just want to follow the trend? The easiest investment strategy so far has just been to follow the trend. We're getting more digital, we're getting more technologically advanced, we're becoming more mobile. Everyone has internet accounts of some kind. Everyone transacts money in some way, shape, or form. An app is used to pay. That is the way that the world is going. If anything, we're accelerating faster towards that agenda with AI or whoever else that you want. But on the investment side, like, technology is really just getting started. We've still got tons of businesses, tons of organizations that are paper-based, tons of organizations that don't utilize any type of technological infrastructure. Just crypto alone can disrupt entire industries, and we are so far away from any type of mass adoption that we're heading in one kind of direction. The thing for our market is it moves incredibly quickly. In order to pay attention to crypto and understand exactly what's going on, you have to work in crypto. You have to pay really close attention to it from an investor or builder side. Otherwise, things will happen and you'll have no idea what's going on. So my piece of one advice from a technology standpoint is like, become interested. I've never in my life seen anyone spend 100 hours going into crypto, come out of the other end and been like, no, I was right, it's full of shit. Like, I was right, it's all garbage, none of it works. if you spend the time, you just pick an element, pick something that you're really interested in, take some time to explore into it, you'll come out the other end and be like, okay, this makes a lot of sense.
My one piece of advice for everyone is at the end of the bull market, don't go put all your crypto into high-yielding centralized services.
Nice. I've learned that one the hard way myself.
You have to learn it.
Yeah. And Freddie, anything you're looking at taking your interest of late? You want to flag to the audience, or else we'll jump into some questions.
I think I've said a few narratives there. Look at 2021 teams and tokens that have been through the bear market. I think look at some of the creativity that's happening with Bitcoin. Like Bitcoin's so strong, and get on chain. That's where the alpha lives.
Awesome. I think we'll go to some questions. If anyone wants to ask any of our esteemed colleagues here anything, pick your hand up, and I think we got a spare mic at the back, and someone will come around to you. Gentleman down here. You've won the Booby Prize. No, you haven't.
Yeah, hi, Josh here. One for Fred. You made the distinction sort of between applications versus infrastructure, highlighting, in your opinion, apps are more important. What's your take on physical infrastructure and its importance? Decentralized physical infrastructure. That's it.
So I think I think if you want to get purely decentralized, that's sort of where that comes in. And I think that is a problem as regulation risk gets higher, and I think that was becoming more and more prevalent. But as regulation risk gets less, it probably affects that a little bit in the short term. Long term, but you want things to be immutable. You want them to last forever. And I think if we do need to go and solve that. I think there are places that need to be solved as well in front ends. So the front ends of applications, decentralizing those, because they can get shut down, and that's not immutable.
Uniswap, right?
Like Uniswap, or just in general, the front end. I think there are people trying to solve this, right? But I do think it's another area where we need some good rails and ability to stay immutable. I think the hardware side, I think that's a fascinating one. I don't have enough depth, but I do think it's probably going to be related to regulation and how strong that comes on right now.
You can also just ask ChatGPT and see what it comes back with. As Fred would say.
No, I just think that if I could just comment on that, there's actually some really I personally and with Finder we use AI, right? We expose AI. Our customers are using AI. They don't even know they're using AI. AI has been being used for so long. What I think is possible now, but you can do very simple actions. Like I think you look at all the top trading bots, BonkBot and those kind of things. It's actually much easier to go and do. And I do think in terms of some of the simple executions, can you just buy this coin? Can you go and short that perp? Can you go and borrow USDC against my wrap Bitcoin here? And over time, I do think you can plug in that context. I think there's some very simple things. And I do think that cracking that is... I'm a non-consensus investor, but so, this is probably, I could probably be wrong, but I don't really care. I back my own ideas. And I think that's where the alpha lives, right? You believe in something different than everyone else believes, and then you're suddenly the person that was holding Bitcoin in 2012, Well,
that's what makes the market, right? So it's good. Anyone else got a question? Have we got oh, yeah?
Hi guys, just got a question for all of you, maybe you can answer. How far are we in Australia to use cryptocurrencies to buy normal stuff like, you want to buy a car, you don't want to go to a bank, you want to buy a house, you don't want to go to a bank and pay so much money interest. For example, if somebody buy a house of $500,000 at the moment, and you want to pay it off, you will be paying approximately $300,000 to $400,000 in interest. So how can you use crypto to do something like that, and how far are we, especially in Australia, to be somewhere like that?
Maybe I can jump in this one. So I actually didn't plug where I work, so I'll do that quickly. So I work for a company called ZeroCap. So we're one of Australia's largest OTC desks. So we help a lot of our friends and partners here with their liquidity. And the big problem for us and all of our customers is banking, ultimately. And it's that transaction, that bridge between crypto and the banking. And unfortunately in Australia, it's still bloody difficult to get a bank account. Some of the biggest partners here, they're still struggling to this day to get accounts. So I think until that bit's fixed, it's going to be really tough for what you're saying. There is pockets of it happening, and we have clients that enable this. They can give you loans against your Bitcoin to go and buy your house and things like this. But until there's clear regulation and banking, then the big end of town that traditionally offer these products can get involved. I think until that happens in the traditional sense, the traditional finance side, it's still going to be quite niche. So we really need that infrastructure on the TradFi side to come through, so that a bank can lend against it, or they can receive payment, or the lawyer can accept the crypto, and all these kind of things still need solving. And people are doing it, but it's still a bit too piecemeal. So I think we're still probably a couple of years away, but I do see it happening. But we just need a bit more help, I think, on the banking and regulation side for that stuff to really take off.
But you can already pay for things using your card. So you can use something like Stables, which takes stable coins, and then you can tap and go with a credit card. There's MoonPay that exists. Like, there are avenues in order to be able to liquidate your crypto without ever having to go through banking rails. You have to KYC, but all of that exists. The problem with Australia is Australia is a fast follower. If they don't follow the US in terms of regulation, what they will create, they'll end up falling behind, and we'll build outside of them. We're already doing it. If you have assets that are in Bitcoin or Ethereum, whatever it may be, you can borrow against them on chain. You can borrow against them on chain in 15 minutes without ever having to talk to anyone. And then you can use your stable apps to go and pay for groceries at Woolworths. You can go and buy, if you have enough, you can go and buy a car using your credit card. So all of that infrastructure already exists. So if the banks don't play catch up, they'll end up losing out. You'll just move forward past them anyway.
Yeah.
I've just got one thing I wouldn't mind adding to that. I agree with what you're saying. I don't think Australia does always follow the US with respect to regulation. In fact, we're a little bit ahead with respect to Bitcoin ETFs, if I'm perfectly honest. So the Monochrome Bitcoin ETF is, if not the first, one of the first Bitcoin ETFs in the world that has an in-kind feature, which means you can give us your Bitcoin, we issue you ETF units. And what Mark was explaining there about leveraging, I guess, your Bitcoin to pay for things, you can leverage the ETF units and you can buy a house or a car, Lamborghini. And so I love this question, and I think it does already exist. I agree with you, it's not on a coordinated large-scale basis. It is niche, but it does exist. So if you're interested in it, please get in contact with us.
We're getting told we've got to get off, so really appreciate my guests coming in today. Really appreciate. I'll see you on the boat, maybe, or something, I'm not sure. Thanks for turning up. Grab one of us. So I'm at ZeroCap, we've got to stand over there. Monochrome's over here. Lee, Fred, and Igor are floating around, so grab them if you've got any questions. And thanks again for coming along today. Cheers.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.